Flash floods have swept through parts of Kenya's capital, Nairobi, after heavy weekend rains triggered sudden flooding across the city. At least 23 people reportedly have died, whilst dozens of vehicles have been washed away and several roads and homes damaged. Emergency teams, including soldiers and rescue workers, have been deployed to evacuate residents and distribute relief supplies. Flights at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, East Africa's busiest aviation hub, were also briefly disrupted. Well, for the latest on the situation and the response on the ground, we're now joined by our correspondent in Nairobi, Alex Kiarie. Alex, thanks very much indeed for joining us. What is the latest situation in Nairobi right now?
Thank you very much, Peter. So far, right now, we have a lot of crews on the ground trying to clear up the debris that was swept into the city from upstream counties, including Kiambu and Kajiado, which had blocked many sections of the city. And also, most of the people whose businesses were affected are also trying to clean up, and especially the vehicle owners. Some of them are trying to locate where the cars ended up. But looking outside the window, I can see still there is some sign outside, which is a sign of more trouble to come probably in the evening, because usually heavy rains usually begin with sunny spells during the day, only to end up with the rains in the evening. But for now, many people are very, very angry at the government because the warnings were issued earlier on. This having been part of the El Nino and La Nina weather patterns, which, as you all know, have been oscillating between Southern Africa and Eastern African regions. Whenever it is dry here, the South is usually experiencing floods. But in this case, the situation has moved to this side, where we have heavier rains as predicted in December. And the government was warned, and actually as late as last week, but one, the weatherman had issued warnings that we could be experiencing more elevated rainfall, but nothing seems to have been done, and this is what we have been witnessing for now. And for now, most people in Nairobi County are blaming the county government and national government for failing to clean up the drainage system, which caused all this situation that we saw, because most of the water came from the highland regions of Mount Kenya region, and also in Rift Valley, where another huge population is impacted by these floods. In Nairobi, as we speak currently, the number of the dead has risen to 28, 11 of whom were killed through electrocution, as power lines also came under the impact of the floods. And the other places, nationally, up to 43 people have died. And so many bridges and roads have been swept away in mostly in Western Kenya. And the government for now is trying to intervene by having more people move to safer regions, as the Red Cross, Kenya Red Cross sends more warnings that we could be having more rains. But remember that the rains had been predicted to end today. And so we're waiting to see and watching out to see what will happen later on in the day. Peter.
I guess this anger is justified because these are not new phenomena, floods and heavy rains in Nairobi. How is it that a city like that, a key city in East Africa, has poor drainage systems to allow this to happen?
Just before the county governor of Nairobi handed over some of the functions to the national government, garbage has been lying around the streets, and there have been complaints about this. There have also been reports of pollution and clogging of the drainage systems from plastic bottles, and also second-hand clothes that are normally sold in one of the biggest markets within the city called Gikomba, where the remaining or the unsold clothes end up in the drainage and end up blocking these systems. But the government should have invested in clearing up this drainage during the dry season. But it is only on Sunday, not even Saturday, it's only on Sunday that we saw some cleanup crews put on the streets to try to unclog these systems. And this in itself is confirming Kenyans' anger because the most of the damages happened on Friday evening when the rains were witnessed in the city, but more rains were witnessed in Kiambu County, which sent the waters downstream to the city. But Saturday, we never saw anything. We only witnessed locals and private businessmen counting the losses. Those whose vehicles had been swept away also coming out to try to rescue the situation. But the government's presence was not witnessed until yesterday, that Sunday, when we saw crews on the streets trying to clean up, and also the government announcing the setting up of a fund to mitigate and also assist those people who have been negatively impacted by the floods. And this is also rather blame going to the concerned ministry that is in charge of disaster mitigation, which only issued a warning and never announced any more measures in place to ensure that those people who normally live in the low-lying areas in Nyanza region are also moved to more safer regions, despite the warnings that are now being issued by Red Cross of more rains that could be expected probably from next week. Peter.
And very briefly, Nairobi is a major economic transport hub for East Africa. Has this already started to affect things like movement of goods?
Actually, from what happened on Friday, most people who don't have any business in Nairobi have decided to stay away until this situation has improved. And the roads that are normally, especially the Mombasa road, which normally connects Nairobi and the coastal region, was closed for some days until I think this morning when it was reopened. And most of the vehicles are now being urged to use the expressway, which is more elevated. But the road in itself yesterday was being cleaned up because of the muddy and electricity posts that had been swept and blocked parts of the road. So it is basically a situation of a city that is recovering over a situation that could have been avoided. And that's why there's a lot of anger towards the government.
Alex, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much indeed. Your updates always greatly appreciated. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Peter.